Good afternoon. My name is Martin Hamilton, and today Agape Health Tip will be on seasonal allergies or allergic rhinitis. It's really a good topic to discuss today, given the time of the season. So, what is allergic rhinitis, or what is seasonal allergies? Basically, it's an inflammation of the mucous membrane of your nose or your upper respiratory system. Um, what are the causes? Typically, there are various causes of allergic rhinitis, but typically, it's seasonal allergies are typically caused by trees, pollens, and plants. So seasonal allergies itself probably affect about a quarter of the population in the United States. So it's a pretty prevalent disease. So within your respiratory tract, there are some various cells that we refer to as mast cells. And those cells are located not only in your respiratory tract, but your GI tract. And the way seasonal allergy afflict us is that those mast cells are bound by specialized white blood cells called IgE antibodies. So when you inhale pollens or the plant, or you come in contact with the plant or tree, specialized protein bind to those mast cells. And if you've ever had allergies before, some of you may have had allergies before, and you may have been diagnosed with it late in life, and you may say, well, a doctor may have said, well, I think it's because of the pollen or tree or whatever. And you may say, well, I've been around that stuff all my life, so I don't think that's the case. Well, that's how allergies work. It typically, your first exposure does not cause it. So the IgE itself, what it does, it identifies these proteins and it builds its army. It says, well, I'm going to build my army. I notice that you have afflicted the body, so I'm going to build this army and make my army pretty strong before I attack you. So as you get exposed to these proteins or pollens or trees, IgE builds its army. So one day it decides, my army is strong enough now. So the next time you enter my body, I'm going to attack you. And that's what happens. You inhale these pollens, and then the IgE antibodies start attacking your body. So the IgE antibodies attack your body, the mast, and rupture those mast cells. The mast cell releases histamine, leukotrienes, various what we call cytokines, and those are what causes the allergic reaction. So I guess one of the most important questions, or the most frequent question, is, how do I know if I have allergies or if it's a cold? Well, there are several criteria we use, and it's time, pattern, and severity. Okay, with allergies typically tend to last from weeks to months, right? And colds tend to last no more than 14 days. With cold, you tend to see you may start off with a clear mucus that may transition to a yellow mucus secretion. After about 10 days with cold, you should start feeling better. If you're not feeling better after 14 days, it's likely not a cold. With allergies, again, the secretions are usually clear, continuously clear. It usually doesn't transition to a yellow color until maybe at least at the end of the allergen cycle. So the hallmark of allergies is itchy throat, itchy nose, watery eyes. So the itching will automatically, oftentimes will identify the fact that you have allergies. You may get fever with low-grade fever with some allergies or severe allergies. You'll likely get it with a common cold. You may get sneezing, again, the running nose, and the color of the phlegm or the discharge from your nose will give you an idea of whether or not it's allergies or not. So how do we treat allergies? So there are various treatments for allergies. But the most important thing you can do with allergies is to just avoid it, all right? A lot of us may watch the news, or we have various sources that we use to monitor the weather. And oftentimes when you watch the weather channel on the news, or if whatever source you use for your weather, they will often tell you what the pollen count is outside. So they'll tell you if it's high, medium, or low. Okay, you want to avoid being outside if the pollen count is high when you are afflicted by allergy. That's an important consideration for people that are afflicted by allergy. So avoidance is the most important thing. We will prescribe what's called antihistamines. There are various antihistamines on the market. You have Claritin, Zyrtec, Zysol, and there are others. Nasal spray or nasal steroids, which is probably the most important medication you can take because it blocks all of the cytokines that I mentioned, your leukotrienes, your histamine, the prostaglandin, all of those are cytokines. So the nasal steroid is very important, especially if you have severe allergies. You can also use nasal rinse. There are various over-the-counter nasal rinse that you can purchase, saline rinse. Just rinse your nose out. Or they sell the neti pot at a CVS and your retail pharmacy. The only issue with the neti pot, you want to keep that clean because oftentimes if you don't keep the instrument clean, it can cause you to develop bacterial infection. So with allergy and cold, you can sometimes progress to bacterial infection, and you have to be aware of that. And again, as I mentioned, the key to that to determine whether you have bacterial infection versus, it's just an allergy or it's just a minor cold, again, it's time, symptoms, and severity. So with bacterial infection, if you're not getting better after 10 days, or your symptoms have worsened after 10 days, you likely have developed a bacterial infection. With bacterial infection, your discharge oftentimes will be thick, yellow, it may be green. And a key indicator of the bacterial infection would be facial pain and pressure, indicating a sinus infection. Okay, it can even indicate the yellow the green discoloration, the brown discoloration may even indicate a case of bronchitis. So that's one thing you have to be leery of. There are other medication, more expensive medication that can be prescribed, immunomodulators. We have leukotrienes, blockers. There are various medications. The key to medication before you take any of them, make sure that you consult your physician, especially if you're taking decongestant. You decide to take decongestant for congestion or the cough medicine, because if folks with heart disease, we tend to advise those individuals not to take those medications because it could raise your blood pressure and put you at greater risk for heart attack or other heart disease. So those are the things that those are the various ways that we treat allergies. And there's one other thing I want to mention. There are some homeopathic medication out there for those individuals that don't like to take medication. Texaclear is one that I've tried, and it seemed to have worked well for me. But again, if you decide to take any medication, just make sure you consult your provider or your physician. So if you